Okay, so we will call this special meeting of the Board of Trustees for June 23rd to order. Are there any revisions to the agenda? Public comment. To protect privacy, do not name individuals. Public comment may not address contested cases, grievances, or legal proceedings. Use the Uniform Complaint Procedure Policy 1700. Due to open meeting laws, the board cannot respond to public comments during the meeting. So if you ask us a question, we cannot respond. It's not us being rude. We cannot respond. And public comment is available only by in person. So the first agenda item is for discussion and possible action is the eligibility for higher criteria for new or additional extracurricular positions. I don't believe I need to introduce that any further as we just talked about it. So are there any clarifying questions? I think one of the big things we need to discuss as a board is a timeline that we were considering, but we can talk about that in the discussion. Well, actually, we should probably do it now in case there is public comment to that. So let's talk about a timeline now. I don't know if anyone would like to start with that.
I guess I have a clarifying question, a couple clarifying questions that are just the logistics of what this would look like we talked about. Like clarifying question would be, say we do vote to do this procedure, when would it go into effect? How would that look like changing our form that we ask people to fill out, whether they're inner or outer district people? Like what does the logistics of that actually look like unfolding from an HR or legal standpoint?
So are you guys hiring right now, extracurricular positions? Okay, so the board would have to set an effective date.
Okay.
So it could be start tomorrow, but I think you're gonna have to change some applications, so I wouldn't start it tomorrow. I would say give them at least a week to read about it.
Sarah.
I would defer to Sarah on the, because I don't know what you guys use right now for extracurricular applications, but you're gonna wanna have, you're gonna need some additional questions on there to affect what you guys wanna do. It's doable, but I give her.
Yeah, we can. We need to set a date.
Set an effective date, yes,
Yes.
and that's.
Okay. And then just the language of it, like if we did proceed with this, who is that language we have to formalize?
We would formalize it now.
Okay.
And I do kind of have a base one that we could discuss.
Okay.
So we would essentially give a directive to the human resources to establish eligibility standards for any new or additional extracurricular activities for blank years for consideration of those hires. So based on the discipline or letter of reprimand.
Okay. Can you say it one more time?
So essentially, the board would like to increase the eligibility requirements for any new or additional hires to the unique nature of extracurricular positions requires. Okay, hold on. That was the discussion. I'm sorry. Let me cross that one out. Essentially, we would direct HR to establish an eligibility standard for any new or additional extracurricular hires for a blank number of years for those positions.
Okay. So then this is our clarifying question phase.
Yes, this
So
is where we would
discuss-
really want.
We'll discuss this later, but that's
Kind of
what
the
language
big,
was.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so we're coming up with a directive for our HR.
Okay.
Yeah, because they would need guidance.
Yes, 100%.
And then she comes those in. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Clear. And then we can say like internal and external.
Yes, we need to add internal, external, and we will come up with all those.
Okay.
You got that one.
Then you want to put public comment?
Yeah, is there any other clarifying questions on this? Okay, is there any public comment on this item? Okay.
And you know the number of years before.
Yeah.
Oh, no, this is not a discussion because that's not a clarifying question, right?
Is this clarifying question time or? no?
Yes, so we should come up with a number of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
For
Yeah.
notice to participate fully, they have to know.
Okay, let's do
exactly what
that.
you guys
Does anyone
do.
have
Thanks.
a timeline on that?
I think it was well stated that obviously you can't, no one wants a scarlet letter. That's not the intent of this. The intent is to help everyone from students to community people to parents to everybody feel like this is black and white, this is fair and not unreasonable. So that's the mindset that I'm approaching it from. And I think about, again, I'm not in the education system in my professional career, the time of a window of time for licenses and all that stuff is usually like 2 years. So that's where my,
Yeah.
mine just falls, my own professional, but I'm open to other ideas. But that's, again, it just seems like a standard. I think just a standard. I don't
Well,
have strong feelings.
I guess
Yeah.
what I really wanna see is some internal training. I wanna see somebody who has worked with that person and says, yeah, this person gets it. Or better yet, what I'd like to see is training before they're ever on the job. So that they know that they may not do this, or they may not do that, or they may not do things that will cause them work. And if they can get that training in a year, then I'm personally satisfied with a year. But I want to be assured that they've had the training and that they understand what the problem was and how they can change so that they can move forward and be an effective coach and not putting kids at risk in any way.
I think that goes against us understanding that they've had a reprimand, because we don't get to know that they've had training, because we would actually never know that they were.
Yeah, that would just go back
But
to,
so-
yeah,
But
I think that's
somebody
the-
knows they've had. work.
well, yeah, of course, and they're
Yeah,
going through
but
their process and then they apply for another, or they're an external person, yes. And they would apply for the job and then it would be, yes, up to that person to.
I feel like that's.
That's why we are where we are, is that we need something specific that fits, yeah.
I'm gonna do, I mean, I just thinking of like time and or just solid time. I'll use the club soccer coach again. So let's say a club soccer coach gets put on suspension from their club. I look at like the time of a soccer season can be like 3 months. And so I'd like to see, I think of 2 soccer seasons would be 6 months of showing improvement. And so I think of 2 seasons and in some of those cases, like an advisor though for student council is a whole year thing. And so it's different, but I think putting it on the extracurricular and again, using that, I think 2 years would be like 2 school years is not unreasonable.
I think 2 years, but the year that it happened doesn't count.
Okay.
Like it happened in 2020, be 21 and 22.
When they would be eligible again? Or they would be out, they're ineligible.
Ineligible in 23. Because depending on when it happens or what happens, something could happen not in season.
Or
Right, something could happen outside of the athletic season. So I think, I don't know, I feel like it should be a full 2 years from if not your.
but if it happens in the fall, that would be 3 years.
Yeah, that's almost.
And not 4.
Or
But it also, but
or- or if I-
the reprimand doesn't necessarily coincide, I don't know, okay, I'll
Yeah.
go 2 years. I just think maybe that's too complicated, but if it's.
That's why I hesitate with the 1 year, is that if, yeah, is it if part of,
1 year really could be nothing,
yes.
Right.
Correct,
1 year really be.
and I would assume that part of the goals of the learning opportunity through it is demonstration of improvement, and if you don't have an opportunity to demonstrate your improvement by whatever that task is. Your book advisor, like, you don't have a chance to like show, I can. Yeah, whatever, then that's just a little short, but that's my.
Yeah, I think it's gotta be over a year. I think 2 years, I would say one of my thoughts was like 10 years, 3 years, you get tenure on your 4th year. 10 in your
Not
fifth year.
10 year.
Not 10, yeah.
10 years.
10 years, was I saying it wrong, or like hard to understand, so. The wraparound to me is just more solid, but if that's too hard to track.
I get what you're saying, but
I don't, I think
3
3
years
years is too
track.
many, I'm not saying that we should do 3 years, I think that's too many, I think it should be, 2 years.
And again, we're talking about improvement,
Opportunity.
to opportunity for improvement, and I think. I look at it, yeah, as
Nothing's being taken away.
but if someone has a disciplinary action in their job.
Right.
You do show up every day, as an external hire would show up every day, and they might think 2 years is ridiculous, because I work every single day and I can show that I've improved in.
Mhm.
A year, but
Yep.
I think I always go to like the minimum if we're looking at a club soccer coach or a club coach and to give them 2 club seasons to
Yeah.
improve.
Yeah, that's what's tricky, is that it is an extra duty.
Right.
I think that Jerry's recommendation of watching or, monitoring the plan of improvement, and once the person's been signed off on that, then it seems appropriate that the next academic year would be enough.
Well, I'm saying, you can do that with internal and external.
Right.
You don't put control over.
Yeah,
you
yeah, that doesn't.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
if you're gonna separate it out.
And really, we're not looking at, we would assume if they come forward to the hiring committee that they have met.
Right.
That, yeah, so that's why we don't want to know any of that. It's, yeah, beyond our scope, yeah.
Did you understand that, Rainey?
Yes.
Any other?
Anything we can do to make it more objective and
Right.
still maintain confidentiality is really crucial. And we don't want to discourage people from applying because they think the procedure, like you've talked about, something is really minor versus something that has more substantial impact, say on confidentiality or something.
Well, I think that also goes back to what Principal Drown shared as the admin who is giving the reprimands or the varying levels of opportunities for improvement, shall we say, that this empowers them to know as well that this is the expectation of the board, that if something reaches this level of reprimand, that it also impacts their ability to hire for an addition or apply for an additional duty. So my imagining by Principal Drown sharing that information is that it is helpful then to know from there where they sit, like, okay, this is another layer that if I do go to this as my intervention for this person, this is also part of that. And so then they know, which is fair to them too. Yeah, that would be, and I do reflect upon when we had a big conversation about the gathering clause not that long ago. Principal Drown sharing at that time about the sports and athletics and being suspension or not suspension or whatnot, is that the opportunity to do those things in our district is a privilege, it's not a right. You were very clear stating that. And I feel the same way about this, is that you are not wrong, is that we are short people, but if the consequences of people we get, we hold to a really high standard, I think that's okay. Because I think that's what we are supposed to do. And ultimately, if I have to hold accountability for something terrible that potentially happens while I'm sitting here, I'd rather say I tried. And those are the things that we see that you guys don't see. So that trust has to go both ways.
Our job is to protect kids the best way we can. And if this helps do that, that's what we need to do.
So that's why I say 2.
So we have a 24-month or should we usually say 24 months or 2-year period? Do you?
Well, can I ask a clarifying question?
Yes.
ma'am? Okay, so is it 24, so say it's 2 years, so 2 years from the date of the reprimand, so if I get reprimanded
Yeah.
November 1st, I'm not eligible to apply
For an additional extra duty
for 2 years
from November 1st.
from November 1st,
Yeah.
okay. So I would say 2 years then from the date of the infraction, or the date of the letter of reprimand, just to make that abundantly clear.
So. If we go out board members and Rainey, is 2 years something that we will put out for public comment here? Is that everyone comfortable with that?
Reasonable.
Oh dear. Yes.
Yeah.
We'll say that. We're gonna say
Yep.
that, yes.
Okay. So is there public comment for, and we have I have a more rough draft here. For internal and or external candidate to be eligible for hire for an additional or new extracurricular position, that a candidate must not have received a letter of reprimand or a reprimand in the past 2 years from date of issuance of the reprimand.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay, so
Okay.
that's what it is, so you would say it's directed to HR.
Okay.
That individual candidates are not eligible for extra or additional extracurricular positions if they have received a letter of reprimand within the prior 2 years. The date of the application.
Say that.
Lucy
again.
had that.
Lucy, were you able to?
Right, so it basically, it's setting an eligibility standard, so that an individual is not eligible for hire, which would mean the HR would not even bring them to a hiring committee. If they have received a letter of reprimand in the prior 2 years.
Is there any benefit in as adding disciplinary action? For extra, this is my question for, I know like within our district, what we call it, but again, talking about external.
So yeah, then I mean, every school does this different. I think you might be able to keep a handle on it internally, but you would never do it. Because progressive discipline is everything from, I had a conversation with you in the hall and said, hey, you're late a couple times, get it together.
Right.
That might be discipline at some district, but it might just be, hey, you forgot your keys 4 times, get it together. I mean, everyone's different.
Right.
So I think you need to, a letter of reprimand is the first formal.
It's a very specific thing.
Yes, everyone knows what it
Great.
is.
Okay. So is there any public comment on this?
Yes, sorry, now you have to speak. Yeah.
Right, so I guess it's not a question because you can't answer questions. So my biggest thing is, you made a comment about like making sure that people grow or do something different. Going outside a district, you'll never know that. You'll just know that, oh, somebody got a Dairy Queen because they gave a free cone, but now it's been 2 years, so they're good.
Right.
Or they beat somebody at Dairy Queen, so they're not rehireable, but you guys don't know that, but they met that time frame. So they're eligible, but the in-district person where you know more districts, because the administrators can use that thing, are not ineligible. So I don't know how you guys differentiate between that in and out still for me.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
It's good, healthy discourse. I go through the variety of scenarios of discipline that I've had to be engaged with over the years. And I think about where someone is today and where they are a year from now, or 2 years from now, where any of us were 2 years ago. And I don't disagree with the concept of high level of standards and accountability. I believe in that. And also I'm careful to never, I don't believe that a bigger hammer fixes the problem. So I would recommend, from my perspective, a year to get the person's attention, to have an opportunity to measure their growth, and then to see that opportunity. I think we have to remember here too, that someone may have a letter of reprimand that it's never been involved in any of activities, and then suddenly wants to be the advisor of the free flow club a year from now, or year and a half from now. But they got a letter of reprimand for that day. They called in sick and went skiing instead. So something to keep in mind. Thank you.
Any other?
Yeah, I guess I would echo kind of what Carrie said in that time is not a great healer. Action towards healing is what matters most. And for some people that might look very succinct because it matters that much. My knee-jerk reaction is to say I would never come back. I would never apply for a job again. But that would also show that it doesn't matter that much to me, which I think reinforces what you guys are stating. And so the action that's taken towards getting better, towards reconciliation, towards whatever that is way more important than a time frame, because I do think we'll lose people over the course of 2 years. Like, we move on. I get a job at Dairy Queen instead of coaching junior high track, whatever it may be. But what are we doing to help someone get better? Much like we would do with students or our athletes or participants in our activities, because we want this student to go from A to Z, we got to go through all the other letters of the alphabet, not just say they'll get there. And I think that's a really important factor, that time is not the great equalizer in this conversation. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
So I understand that the board wants to have something clear and to be fair and transparent. And I can say from my perspective that the whole purpose of my role is to ensure that in a process. I think that this will be extremely hard to administer. I think there's a lot of variables in terms of the discipline, what it's for, where it's coming from, how long ago it was, all of the things. If I'm asked to do it, I'll do it. I work for you. I'm also out for protecting kids and getting us the most qualified people for the jobs. We have a very, very rigorous reference check process. And I can assure you that it catches the kinds of things and the kinds of people that you're talking about. And that happens at a number of different stages and with a lot of inputs and care. So from my perspective, I think that it gets to what we're talking about as a root cause. And I think that's worth considering. And that's something that we can use fairly and consistently for every single candidate, whether they're internal or external, whether they're extracurricular or anything else. And I know we're talking about extracurricular positions, but at the end of the day, this level of vetting for an application form is a lot. And we already have a really solid process with a really strong vetting built into it, which is multiple levels of reference check. And that's measuring also what you're trying to get at when you're talking about how much time does it take for someone to reform, or do they reform? You know, somebody who knows somebody and has worked with them can tell you they got it the next day, it was over. Or that guy keeps coming back and doing it again. He fell off the wagon. You know, it was a year, it was 3. So to me, I think that's just something that I wanted to point out. And I also hope that the board can take confidence in that process, because I can say from my perspective, and my time here is limited, but there isn't something we're bringing to you that's coming through that. Thank you.
One other thing, I think when you look at the public perspective and parent perspective too, we're looking at, somebody that's already a coach or a teacher in our district. And then we're saying it's going to get out of community that people applied for something, et cetera, and that they're not allowed to because of this letter or whatever it is in time frame of 2 years. But we are still a teacher or still a coach in the district. I think that sends a message where people are like, well, they're with my kid. They're teaching my son or daughter, and what does that say? I think that's going to open another can of worms for people to then question that person or that coach or that head coach the same way also. I think that's something that hasn't been considered also. Thank you.
Any more public comment?
I think that the people that are issuing these letters of reprimand know us best. They check in with us, they know what's happening. And if they're presenting someone further, they've trusted that we've made that decision and that we've moved forward from that and have learned and grown. And I think it's important that we trust our administrators to do their job because they're good at it and we're lucky to have them.
Any other public comment? Back to the board for further discussion or motion.
Question, so in the current process, is a person asked if they had a reprimand as part of the HR process? Is that a question that's raised usually?
I guess, Sarah, would you be able to answer that? The HR.
So the current application form does not ask that question. It asks about if you've been terminated or resigned to avoid termination. And then, there's other criminal questions that it asks. We have an online reference check form that asks whether or not an employer would reemploy someone. And they can say yes or no. And it also asks for a person's reason for leaving, which could be voluntary or involuntary. The next layer of reference check that we have is a telephone reference check that we make to a current or recent supervisor. That form now asks consistently whether or not there's a knowledge of a letter of reprimand or discipline. So we have a mechanism to check that, but it's only after we've had an interview and we are thinking about recommending a candidate. And then the last form of the check is an FBI fingerprint background check, which also yields information about criminal activities or other things. So, but the current initial application form that someone filled out, it doesn't ask down to the letter of a reprimand.
I think that kind of just brings it up then. It's just moving that question of the letter of reprimand earlier in the staging rather than after an interview, before an interview. That's how I just interpret it.
Can you say that again?
I said, so how I just interpreted what she said is your question of, do we ask about the letter of reprimand, not in the application, but we do after the interview. So it's just moving that question earlier in the process. And then that's my understanding of that, I guess.
You mean, can you move that question really?
Well, that's what we would be doing if we asked for this.
Yes,
So
okay.
ultimately, it is a question that gets answered before they're hired, but now we're asking for it to be asked before they get to the level of interview. In part because of how we do our hiring in this district is through interview committees. So that's what, how I interpret that.
Yeah.
But I'm.
And I think, I mean, I really appreciate what Sarah has to say, and I
Yeah,
think
absolutely,
that
yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's a fair position we're putting you in, to be completely honest, in any way. I also think, though, that the district might naturally improve now that we have an HR person.
Right.
But this becomes, again, the thing I've learned is we have wonderful administrators. Absolutely, there is, and I never want, and I can't say this enough. Because I might not agree or have a different opinion, it has nothing to do with my trust in you or your process. Ultimately, I am up here with a huge burden of making a decision where, again, it's my moral, it's my compass in here and this and what I do. And so it's nothing to do with a lack of trust. And I'm sorry if it ever is interpreted that way. But it's not that, but we also continually talk about this. We have wonderful administrators, but they can change. And that's what I'm finding on the board is you can have a wonderful group of people. And it can change very quickly. And then you say, well, did we have a procedure in place to catch us? And as a board, I think it's one of our duties is to have the procedure in place that can catch us. Because I look at all the people that might say, this is so dumb that I'm getting a reprimand and now I can't apply for this job. But again, I say with every patient, I say, we're going to work back from worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is your dog has an abdominal obstruction and we're going to surgery. Best case scenario, he's going to have diarrhea. I have to look at it that way. Worst case scenario is we hire someone that makes a kid's life miserable. And legitimately. And so that's where I start from. And no, I don't think someone should pay a price forever, but I bear this burden with a lot of moral compass, and it is not a lack of trust in what people do in their jobs or how well you do your jobs. It is purely the fact that I have to start with the worst case scenario, and we're all human and we miss things. And so to have a procedure in place as our netting is so important. And I'm finding that as the board changes, as administrators change, as we gain an HR person, I think Sarah has organized things that I never even, I feel like we've been a bit unorganized and we might not need we might not need this directive again in 3 years because we have procedures are in place and they're getting followed the same way every single time. But I just think I personally feel like the safety net with my niece and nephew, and it's important to me, and so I guess that's where I'm coming from.
I just wanted to, again, just go back to, was it 2.6 people per year get a reprimand? 2.8, and we have 300 employees in the district? 250. So we're talking about a real small number of people who aren't going to be eligible to apply for position. So we're not talking about like everybody who works in this district. So I think when we talk about this, we need to remember it's a very small number of people that are being affected. But that small number of people could have a large impact because they're touching a lot of lives. And so I heard everything that was said, and I've taken it all very seriously, and I appreciate all the public comment. I think it was very thoughtful. That was very well thought out. I still think, and I do agree, you're right, time can't heal all wounds. But when you sit up here and you're in charge of blindly hiring people and you have no knowledge except for their name and that they were recommended, I guarantee you would want to know that there's another safety net in there for you. And so I am still a proponent of having a longer time frame, or having a time frame and having something actually written down instead of this ambiguous number of, well, it's best practice here or there, depending on what you read on the internet. Doesn't work for me. We need a procedure, we need a number. It has to be black and white, and it has to be written down.
I hope there's room somewhere where you have either this 1 year or 2 year, but you also have someone in a position where they can use their common sense and discretion, if needed, if you can allow that flexibility somehow. I don't know, maybe you can.
Again, that goes to external versus.
Yeah. So we probably won't have information on the external except whether they have one or not. So you'd have to be willing to distinguish between internal and external.
And actually what Sarah shared about the layers of rigor that go into the external, what she's just sharing, I think alleviates some of the concerns that were out there of like, is there going to be disproportionate information that we know about internal versus external? And it sounds like the detective work that's going into our external applications is very deep. So I think that is, I don't think there's an unfairness there from hearing her explain her process.
Well, and given that, hearing her explain your process, I still maintain, I think a year is enough.
And I think that we have to look at this as a community issue as well. If a student or multiple students have problems with the way a coach is treating them, the student needs to notify the appropriate people. And if the parents see it or hear it, they need to. It's not just the board of trustees and the administrators. This is a group process. And I think we're leaving out the fact that all parties have some responsibilities, and I'm not sure.
But they aren't responsible, but Rainey, they aren't responsible for hiring. Like, you are correct that I think, and I there's lots of coaches in this room. I'm sure they have unfortunately dealt with a lot of parents giving them feedback.
Yeah.
And then working their way up their chain. And that is what we're trying to prevent, is that it's not a subjective, like kid didn't get enough minutes in this quarter, a kind of conversation, potentially, right? That if it reaches this level of reprimand, that is a very specific subject, or not subjective, very clear objective level. And it's not to let a coach be a coach. It's supposed to be a very specific thing. Yeah.
It just sounds like there's quite a variety of reprimands that go from very inconsequential to more confidentiality issue maybe. But, if somebody can reprimand.
I don't think they are. I don't know if you heard Dave say there's only 2.8, and as Carrie shared, that if it reaches the level of reprimand, and now if we make this clear, black and white, then admin knows what that means very clearly. Not to say they didn't before, but this is one more piece that qualifies something as a letter of reprimand versus the other things beneath that or above that, right? Like, those are different conversations then. Yeah, I would disagree with that. I think they're very, again, I trust my admin, just like Elizabeth said, I trust our coaches. I am so grateful for the people we have in this district right now. I'm so grateful for the board that's sitting here and the superintendents, and I just feel, but that can all change overnight. And that's what we have seen, is that then if you have something that's just a practice, it's not the same as a procedure. So I'm okay with one, honestly, and then revisiting this conversation too, to see how that goes. I'm also, I mean, two, it's just really hard because it's not like any normal job. It's not a job where you show up 365 days. It's not, we're not talking about teaching. We are talking about extra duties. So if you only have an extra duty, I would want to change the language somehow that reflects like through that season, because if the year falls and you never are actually demonstrating performance improvement in the actual skill that you're supposed to be showing. Not to say that it's just
It's the timing of it all.
it's the timing is why I'm pulled to the two. It's not about,
But how do you demonstrate that you've improved if you're not coaching?
but that's what I mean, exactly. But that's what I mean about the year, is that it's like
seasons.
you could fall, yeah. But also, this isn't just coaches, it's extra duties, which are lots of things.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I recognize that, yeah.
And I think something that I'm hearing from a lot of people too is, can we improve our like professional development for
Yes.
coaches and to help, again, time is, but can we as a district support those improvements? And but again, I mean, unless I'm misinterpreting the 2.8 number, it doesn't seem, it seems like a really small number, and am I misinterpreting that at all? I don't. It's I feel like two potential seasons, but then I think, you know, you could make it really complicated for Sarah and say, oh yeah, this person went through a drastic personal development or professional development, they showed improvements, that person gets 1 year, and
No.
someone external.
Yeah,
has to
and
do
that's
it
why
also.
that's
Just
great.
do
It has to
Yeah.
be a blanket statement, and that's unfortunate because it could be, yeah. You know, depending on reprimand, but we can't get into that. That's getting into the thing.
And again, I have to go worse,
So
I think we have to go worst case.
I hear 1 year, I just don't think 1 year works in an extracurricular
Well,
situation.
it doesn't work unless there is internal extensive training. And
Which we
people
can't
are
control.
working
Right.
with these people, and hopefully this puts everybody on notice that we need this for training. And we need to make sure that our coaches are prepared and know what the parameters are and what they can do and what they can't do. But you know, I still say I'm fine with the year.
What do you have so far? Do you have anything, do you have it written down what the network said so far of that?
Well, we just have to give the directive to each other.
It's in the form of a motion though.
It does, so we have to have the wording.
Okay.
We have to have the wording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
can read to you if you want.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, the board to direct HR to establish a policy stating that no one who received a letter of reprimand in the prior 2 years would be eligible to apply for an extra duty position.
So we can't say not policy though, so it'd be.
So is it what procedure?
Direct the board or direct the HR to develop an internal procedure. Excluding individuals for consideration for new or additional extra duty positions if they received a reprimand in prior 2 years. Or whatever, how many years you guys decide. Can you read it back?
Not just a compliment.
Not yet. The board to direct HR to establish an internal procedure excluding individuals from applying for extra duty positions if they received a letter of reprimand in the prior 1 or 2 years.
Have you came with it?
Mm-hmm.
And obviously apply, take from consideration.
From consideration,
Because we can't,
Right.
your
They can
application.
apply.
excluding individuals from considering, excluding from consideration.
from consideration for those positions, right?
Extracurricular positions.
Extra duty positions. But we just need a number of years.
So you wanna read it one more time?
The board to direct HR to establish an internal procedure excluding from consideration those individuals who received a letter of reprimand in the prior one. From consideration for extra duty positions. So now it's the number of years and we got it.
Oh, there you go.
Well, I don't know, it's 18 months, a number that everyone could.
I love a compromise.
I mean, I really, it was
Yeah.
listening to what Carrie said, I mean, he's got the experience, so.
I agree.
Yeah.
18 months of compromise.
Who received a letter of reprimand in the prior 18 months. Okay,
And then it's just Elizabeth or Eric for that.
I'm the then trust Lucy to read that.
Yeah.
okay, the board to direct HR to establish an internal procedure excluding individuals from consideration for extra duty positions. Excluding individuals from consideration. Yeah, for extra duty positions if they received a letter of reprimand in the prior 18 months.
I think we need to say for new extra duty positions.
New or additional.
New or
additional.
For you. Or additional
Okay.
extra duty positions. If they received a letter of reprimand in the prior 18 months.
Okay. But I will make a motion. I move that we direct HR to establish a directive, no, an internal procedure excluding
You can say that.
individuals. from
individual-
consideration.
from consideration for new or additional extra duty positions if they've had a letter of reprimand in the prior 18 months.
Yes.
Second.
That is moved by Darcy and seconded by Quincy. All in favor? Thank you. Rainey?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Rainey.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your comments and participating.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to action item B, which is an interlocal agreement with Olney Bissell School District with Lucy Shea.
So attached to your agenda is an interlocal agreement with the Olney School District. This agreement allows Olney School District to pick up students who live within our school district, to drive them to Olney to attend school there. And you may remember that at the last meeting 2 weeks ago, we had a reciprocal agreement on the table, whereas our district, picked up kids at Olney, delivered them to Whitefish. So it goes both ways. Again, there is no fee attached to this agreement. And we do this on annual basis.
Very clarifying question. Any public comments on this item? Back to the board for further discussion or motion.
I would be approved as presented.
I second it.
Okay, that is moved by Darcy and seconded by Quincy. All in favor?
Yes.
You?
Okay, so with Lucy again, C is donations from the Whitefish Education Foundation.
Presented for your consideration are 2 donation checks from the Education Foundation. The first one is for specific items related to our new math curriculum. That's check number 1767. Check number 1766 is the proceeds of the WSD Rocks party. Okay.
So there was both sales from purchasing tickets to get to the party and also from donations to the school district. So I recommend you approve.
And move for your,
Yeah. Are there any clarifying questions? Is there any public comments on this item? Back to the board for further discussion or a motion.
I move we accept the donations from the Whitefish Education Foundation.
I second.
That is moved by Jerry and seconded by Darcy. All in favor?
Yes.
Thank you.
So item D is personnel recommendations for hire. Mr. Mead.
Good list of recommendations for hires. Recommend approval for the following positions: a Spanish teacher, long-term substitute, a WHS science teacher, WHS assistant golf coach, Special Olympics head coach, WMS volleyball coach, well down playground supervisor, well down crossing guard, WHS spectator educator, and extended school year teacher. And you can see the participants on the interview team there, recommendations for hire.
14 science teacher applications, that's crazy. Wow. It's great. I know, lots of them.
Any other questions today? Is there any public comment on this item? So back to the board for further discussion or a motion.
I might just say Sarah had shared with me that, do we sometimes get applications that are just kind of are those all legitimate applications for people who have a license in the state of Montana to teach 14? Do you know? Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah. Like, wow, yeah.
That's okay. So back to the board for further discussion or a motion.
I move we approve as presented.
I'll second it. And that is moved by Quincy, seconded by Jerry. All in favor?
Yes.
You?
Yes.
Okay, E is classified staff renewals with Mr. Means and Sarah Crowe.
Through our HR process, administration recommends approval of staff listed before you. They're classified staff renewals.
Okay, any questions? Any public comments on this item? Back to the board for further discussion or a motion.
I move we approve as presented.
I'll second it. Moved by Darcy and seconded by Jerry. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. F, for his recommendation for hire as the Whitefish Middle School principal, presented by Mr. Means and Sarah Crowe.
Well, this presented for your discussion, possible actions with the recommendation for hire the Whitefish Middle School principal position. As you can see. You can see the listed candidate there is recommended for hire, Tyler Jones. And you can see the board administration team there at WMS staff who participated in that interview.
Are there any clarifying questions? Is there any public comments on this item? Back to the board or some motion or further.
It's like a rounding level of applause.
Speech.
I move we approve as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, that is moved by Quincy and seconded by Jerry. All in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
So we're gonna put you in the front row from now on.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
He was like, hopefully they'll say no.
So item G is a request for waiver of age discrimination. As a presiding officer of this school board, I am calling this meeting to executive session for the purposes of individual rights.
Yeah, he was just giving this direction.
Okay.
Okay, so on action item. Guess we're on G, isn't it, G?
Yeah.
G, is there a motion for the request for a waiver of the age limitation?
Can I interrupt really quick?
No, you can't. I'm sorry, you, not now that we're out of, the closed session, you can't, sorry. So again, is there a motion?
I move we deny the request for, the age waiver.
Is there a second? Second. And that is moved by Jerry, seconded by Karen, all in favor.
I,
One last motion, please.
I'm a waiver. I'll second.
As moved by Darcy and seconded by Gary.
I.
Everyone, thank you.